So you will just do slides, one of you can do slides, right there.
For the download board.
Yeah, okay, I'll be back in a little bit.
All right. Welcome, everyone. They're running.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm so incredibly honored and humbled to moderate this session today. It's the workshop session, Land Conversations, Underrepresented Voices, Indigenous Perspectives. It is here where Therese Brightflower Gold-Vincento will share her Indigenous perspectives on the value and importance of connection with land for cultural heritage and fostering a deeper understanding of injustices faced by Indigenous communities in cooperation with her nonprofit, Native American Advancement Corps. We have NJ Green Acres, NJ Conservancy Foundation, and the Nature Conservancy and Open Space Institute, who are also, she will be talking about the relationships and her process with you. Ty will share her experience working to secure 63 acres of land preserved this year to meet the needs of the NCC. But before Ty begins, I would like to have everyone just close your eyes. Close your eyes for a moment. Allow your hands to rest down, palms facing down. Plant the soles of your feet firmly on the floor. Take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale slowly out through your mouth as you move your exhalation down through the soles of your feet into Mother Earth. Do this slowly 3 times. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth, down through the body, and out through the soles of the feet, connecting with Mother Earth. Now that we're all grounded and connected to this land, place, and space, you can slowly open your eyes as I invite Ty to introduce herself, and that we actually listen to her words. Not only listen, but actually hear her words.
That was the best introduction I've ever experienced. And that was her idea. So today I stand before you to shed light on a topic of great importance: the enduring struggle for recognition, respect, and understanding of the rights of Indigenous communities. It's a fight that has persisted for centuries, marked by unlawful land transactions, forced assimilation, and the suppression of cultural and religious practices. We find ourselves at a crucial juncture where we must confront the notion of assimilation and annihilation through erasure. Those among us still cling to the misguided belief that our history, cultures, and identities can be erased. But we are here to tell you that we refuse to be silenced. We are here, visible, and demand to be heard. Native American Advancement Corps, NAC, is a beacon of this unyielding spirit. We stand as a testament to the resilience of Indigenous communities, and we hold in our hearts the legacy of those who came before us and fought for the rights to face the adversities. The American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978, a federal law, has granted us the right to practice our traditions and faith without prejudice. It is a cornerstone of our identity and an affirmation that our cultural practices are just as valid and deserving of protection as any other. Yet some question our right to claim our heritage, to proudly call ourselves Native American, and to seek representation in public forums. To them, I say our rights are not negotiable, our identities are not up for debate, and we refuse to be invisible any longer. We must educate ourselves and those in position of power and authority. Ignorance can no longer be an excuse for the infringement of our rights. We must enlighten our communities, dispelling the shadows of misunderstanding and replacing them with the light of knowledge. We must hold our governments accountable. They must uphold the principles of justice, equality, and religious freedom for all. To deny us our rights, to erase our existence, is an affront to the very ideals upon which this nation was built. Armed with this knowledge and determination, let us move forward together. Let us be the voice that breaks the silence, the force that dismantles the walls of ignorance. We will not rest until we cover every corner of our society, recognizes and respects the rights of Indigenous communities. I'm not used to doing good. Native American Advancement Corp, NAC, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, which guarantees the right of freedom of religion. This includes the right to practice our faith and culture without prejudice and interference from the government. NAC's religious practices are rooted in traditions of the Nanticoke Lenni Lenape Nation of New Jersey, which was formed in 1978 as a result and the rise to the occasion of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978. This act is a federal law that protects the rights of our people to exercise our traditional religions. It assures our access to sacred sites and the use of sacred objects and the freedom to worship through ceremonies and traditional rites. This law recognizes the importance of preserving, respecting cultures and spiritual practices, especially the land. To support NAC's endeavors for religious freedom, it's crucial to provide historical context. South Jersey was originally inhabited by Indigenous people who encountered European settlers in the early 1600s, including the Swedes and Dutch. Initially, there were a degree of harmonies between the Indigenous people and the settlers. However, this changed in the early 1700s, and many Indigenous peoples unfamiliar with legal European practices were exploited in these transactions with the English. The early settlers, including Fenwick, recognized the Indigenous people as landowners and allowed them to coexist with the new communities. However, over time, the religious organizations like the Friends Quakers began to exert pressure for assimilation and conversion to Western religions. This led to the establishment of organized churches and schools that sought to improve our cultural norms on the Indigenous populations, resulting to a loss of autonomy. Consequently, many Indigenous families secretly practiced their religion and cultural traditions, referring to ourselves as hidden people to avoid the persecutions. The establishment of the Courts of Indian Offenses in 1883 further marginalized and oppressed our Indigenous communities, forcing us into hiding in fear of losing our land and livelihoods. The Dawes Act of 1887 exacerbated the situation by dividing communal lands into individual allotments, ultimately losing vast tracts of Indigenous territories. This act was a part of a broader effort to assimilate Indigenous people into mainstream American society, and undermine our collective identity. The Courts of Indian Offenses and the Dawes Acts were a part of a larger strategy to eradicate indigenous cultures and claim indigenous people no longer existed as a distinct community, providing the pretext for disregarding treaties. However, these acts had an unintended consequence of uniting indigenous communities in the struggle for survival and cultural preservation. This collective effort ultimately contributed to the passage of the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978, which recognized the rights of our people to practice our religion. So given this historical context, local governments must be educated on our rights and freedoms. Indigenous people of South Jersey have faced centuries of injustices, including unlawful land purchases, forced assimilation, and suppression of our religion and cultural practices. The lessons of history have helped us to rectify the wrongs and ensure that Indigenous communities' rights are acknowledged and protected under the law. It is incumbent upon individuals to uphold the principles of justice, equality, and religious freedom by recognizing the same rights and privileges afforded to other populations. To explain our new plan, we must introduce our people, the Nanticoke Lenape Nation of New Jersey. This history will form a basis for the reasoning behind the need. And we will start with the fundamentals of the 7 generations. We honor the ways of our ancestors by instilling in each generation the way to form a firm foundation. To live in balance and harmony, and balance and harmony are one with nature. The eldest maintains the stories and passes these stories to the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. This unbroken chain is the 7 generations. All wisdom is preserved in this perfection. As Native Americans, we understand the dangers of the term survival. The root meaning is to outlive or over, and the opposite is to die. Colonization has been implanted in our teaching to survive. Native people are taught to live in harmony with nature. We never focus on surviving or dying. However, we live in harmony, and to survive means to do whatever necessary to stay alive, even if it means destroying Mother Earth. Our colonization foundation is crumbling, and to build a new foundation, we must first acknowledge our collective mistakes. And we cannot tear down the original and create a new one by teaching, or we can by teaching and nurturing and guiding our children. Our elders teach that it takes a whole community to raise a child. And we are responsible by helping children understand that our new foundation is built on harmony, acceptance, and tolerance. When the colonies were formed, we were to be annihilated. The following statement was used to educate our children in boarding schools as we were ripped away from our homes and our families. We instill in them a pronounced distaste for the native life, so that when they will be humiliated when reminded of their origin. When the children graduate from our institutions, the children have lost everything native except their blood. That was 1875, Bishop Brandy, which is the one that started the schools. And without the teachings of the 7 generations, and just simply acknowledging the ways of our people as culture would imply that we are losing our traditions that keep our community alive. Harmony with nature in general. It's about teaching our children and passing them people's ways, knowing how to identify the seed, when to plant the seed, and when to harvest the fruit. Our harmony is learning how to prepare the meal that comes from that fruit. Our connection is about knowing how to preserve the seed for future generations by harvesting the fruit that we planted. We teach how to identify the feathers of bird of prey, of that of an eagle, an owl, or a red-tailed hawk. We know how to carve wood and heat it in the fire to harden. We are taught how to build a fire so the fire lasts through the night to keep us warm. We teach our children that the sinew is the fibrous substance on the back of the hide, and it's important for tying clothing and tools. We know how to twine rope and to make baskets. We collect clay to make bowls, and we teach our children that every part of the animal is used, from the horns, the brains, and the toes. This revelation is only a part of our harmony with nature based on what we people experience. Although we face changes, the fact remains that we are our ancestors and we are their children. We allow our children and our grandchildren to share this as well. We acknowledge our parents and our grandparents and ancestors who continue to teach the new generations to respect the earth. Although we keep our traditions and stories alive, we face unfair and unjust regulation that do not consider who we are, one with land. We are the fiber that wove this. We are the foundation. We know this land. We recognize that little by little, a piece of our tradition is slowly unraveling, with each pinhole created by the loss of land and by the greed of others. With realizations like this, we hope that our children will be able to have a future. With plans like this, we know that their voices will be heard one day, and the roads will be paved, leading to justice travels and reparations. I am the last generation to have experienced being invisible. We are counting on the new generations to keep the traditions alive and be able to make a change. Harmony with nature is about our children being able to hunt and gather and food, and allows our children to cook the food that they hunt and gather. Harmony keeps our traditions alive for our children and teaches that holding the talking feather when speaking in presence of an adult, to learn how to sit and listen to the elder stories before, so they can learn about the ways of our people. So we recognize why we do the things that we do. Harmony is not about building bylaws or rules that create censorship of opinions that are not wanted by the rules of colonization. We teach the children how to sew leather, to make moccasins for their feet, to make their regalia to wear so they can celebrate their way of life. We teach the children what to do when there is a naming ceremony, a big house ceremony, or a man or woman's rite of passage. Harmony with nature is learning about the gourds and the seeds of the gourd, how to prepare the gourds, and how gourds have been with us for millions of years. It is fishing to make the fish hook and to tie the net for catching the fish for a meal. One with nature is preserving our land and planting the seed, not just the seed of the fruit that we harvest, but the seed of what we teach our young people so they can continue to produce, grow, and survive in the world. One with the land is preserving the elder stories, the recipes we cook, and how we live so we can continue with this generation. We have not forgotten how hard it was for our previous 7 generations and how they fought so that we could maintain our way of life, and the perils of what they experienced and forged for our generation. We have not forgotten the many fights so that we can be who we are, no longer considered other. We have not forgotten our ancestors' sacrifices, how we can participate in activities and where we are today. We have not forgotten the sacrifices that our children of this generation had to experience. It was essential to maintain our way of life today. Little is known about us, Lenape, and the perils of our existence. We never speak about our hurt and our pain and how we remained. We have stories from the elders and pass these stories onto the youth for generations. We stayed in a remote community for many years and a hidden people. Our babies, brothers and sisters, have been torn away from our homeland for centuries. They are still a part of our life and our soil today. We remained and are keeping this land and the seed for all. We are one with nature. So I just wanted to stop right there before we get into the boring parts of the plan and just have you think about something. We are a continuous community since prior to European incursion. We have celebrated together the same way we do today. Every birth, every death, every holiday, which is a new moon holiday. We get together, we have gatherings. If you can just imagine how many years that we have remained a community, even through the adversities of colonization, just with those practices. And just think that today I still commune with at least 5 generations in our family. And those 5 generations commune with at least 5 generations and at least 5 generations. And how we keep our generations alive is we always bring to light those who have just passed before us. If I know my great-grandmother and my grandmother, I make sure that my grandchildren know them, even if they're not walking on the streets. And if you can just contextualize that concept, that there's always births, there's always deaths, there's always gatherings, there's always weddings, there's always family get-togethers for other occasions, and how that kept our community alive. That was done as a hidden group until 1978. And my parents were some of the first ones. We did the March on Washington, D.C., 1976, I was 13, and almost 13. And that was an experience like no other. I lived in that generation where we went from invisibility to visibility. My children do not have to experience it. But yet, the other day, I experienced something from my father's generation. So our work is not done. I experienced someone challenging me how I am able to still maintain my culture living in today's world. In today's world. And it was a hard challenge. Saying, how can you, but they don't know that we have babies and we have weddings and we have funerals and we have ceremonies, and none of that stopped. None of the stories stopped. So we still have work to do. There are still people that do not understand that our continuous community is still alive because of that. And I just simply said, well, we have to have at least one grandparent on the original roles. We don't care if there's Dutch and Swede in our background. It doesn't matter. But we still teach the way we teach. We still teach how to live one with the land. We still teach as our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers and all of the ones before us. That is our continuous community. So there's still work to be done. That was my first encounter at the age of 16. For someone to challenge me how American Indian people can continue to call themselves outside of the reservation. There's still work to be done. And I will say that my presentation had to be scrapped and it took on a whole new life because of the other one. So this is the result. So I want to continue with the plan of our nature reserve. And this plan is open for everyone. This new nature reserve is not just for Indigenous people. This nature reserve is for us to share our experiences and our life with everyone else. 1978 is long gone. People have to realize that we are still here and that we can share and that we can open up our hearts and our doors so that we can help try to save Mother Earth as a community. So Nax Community Tohantic Nature Reserve will provide a unique, immersive experience celebrating the Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape people of South Jersey and their deep connection to nature. It's located in the heart of South Jersey. The Tohantic Nature Reserve will offer a range of activities throughout the year that foster a sense of environmental stewardship and cultural appreciation. The Nature Reserve will feature state-of-the-art nature experiences, showcasing exhibits and artifacts highlighting the Nanticoke Lenni-Lenape people's rich history, traditions, and sustainable practices. The outdoor spaces will serve as a hub for nature-based programs, including campouts, guided hikes, workshops on permaculture and gardening. And throughout these activities, visitors will have the opportunity to learn about and participate in the reintroduction of native species, identify endangered species in the region, and develop tracking skills. Indigenous nature arts are derived from the reserve and will also be taught, providing hands-on experiences of the Nanticoke Lenape people. The reserve will support its operations to rental income from other programs and seek additional funding through energy and environmental grants to ensure sustainability. And by offering a range of engaging activities and educational initiatives, the reserve will also serve as a vital resource for the local community and visitors, fostering a deep appreciation for the natural world and the Native American culture. So instead of boring you with all the details, we are going to have a visitor center with artifacts, and we're going to have outdoor spaces and programs, events and camping, nature-based programs and workshops, permaculture, summer campouts, and then harvest festivals. We are going to have our traditional ways and open it to them. So I want to acknowledge some of our partners that I see in the room, and if I would like to put them on the spot, if they can stand up and introduce themselves, because without our partners, this wouldn't be, and we're going to talk about how that happened next. So if you could just, if you don't mind. You guys can introduce yourselves and tell them what your experience is with this, and then we're going, if you don't. Really honored.
My name is Trish Asplund, the conservation manager of the Nature Conservancy, and it's an absolute honor to work with Ty on this project. We were very grateful that the New Jersey Conservation Foundation brought over came to us and having trouble finding for us the funding for this project. We're very grateful that when we had a donor that requested to us money specifically land conservation in this region, and it was the perfect fit to bring this money to NAC so that we could help them have land given back to them to repatriate this land to NAC so that they have the land that was formerly in their property. Their ancestors lived on this land. It's just so grateful. It's one of the most important things I've ever worked on in my career. So,
Thank you too. Thank you so much.
Really my first ever opportunity so many thousands of years, like, right, experience, with the land, and, you know, for a predominantly historically white, relatively wealthy land conservation investment, and I think that's really shifted in to looking at equity and trying to really make sure that the work that we're doing as our mission as the state, preserving land and natural resources for the benefit. And much more closely to what does that mean, you know? And I think this project was just like incredible opportunity to step into a different space, and a space we will be in more going forward. And I just, yeah, just really want to thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you too.
I'll just say, I don't know. Excited to see your vision come to life. Celebrate those, and the fact that you're inviting the community to be a part of that, to not just experience the beauty of the nature, things that you might experience at any nature preserve, but to have that element of education. I think that's so powerful, and I'm just really excited to see how that taking that approach and to build those bridges and connections. In colonists, right? Essentially, right? I mean, that's really powerful. It's hopeful and it's forward. So, ready. Take that approach.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'm going to tell you, it was in October 2021. I'm a real estate agent, and we had our first 5-year business plan in 2008, and something like this was on there. And it was not until our third 5-year business plan that we found this place. And this was such a miracle, how this all happened. In October 2021, I was researching available properties. Nothing like this ever came up that was in our reach together. And something made me check the box of expired listings. Never did that. And here it was. It was an expired listing. 1.2 million, and perfect. Everything that we wanted. Not the fact that also it was traditional home. My goals. So, you know, with the regular route, went to the bank says, okay, yeah, we can do this. But then in my heart of hearts said, we can't, as a nonprofit organization, take on such, you know, a burden to our programs. You know, it's the thing of being house board, and get into the house, you really can't. Not even a ramen noodle. That's the difference. So I sought out. I went to not Green Acres, but USDA, and found out USDA doesn't lend to nonprofit organizations. But USDA said, "Oh, you have to meet Courtney. Courtney from Green Acres." Met with Courtney. She got excited. This was in March, after October. It wasn't very long. So March 2022. Courtney says, "Well, you have to meet Rob." So I met Rob, and we were all excited, and there was so much excitement over this. And you know, I told them my plan. My plan, don't forget, my plan, you know, was carried over a couple of times, so it was perfected on paper. You know, it was perfected in our minds, and perfected as, you know, it grew with our needs and so forth. So the conversation with Rob, he's like, "Oh, I'm so excited. Now we have to find the rest." He said, "We can do Green Acres. We have to find the rest." I'm like, "Okay, let's find the rest." He said, "Well, let me make one phone call." Got an answer back. We were in meetings a month later with our other partners, and everybody was excited. And it was like, this was so fast track. This was meant to be. Sometimes, we break barriers. We see a brick wall. We don't think we're trying to climb the brick wall. We're trying to break through the brick wall. When that brick wall has a sign on it, say turn left or right. See, and we even purchased a building in downtown Bridgeton. It didn't really suit our needs, but at least it was a little bit of an expansion. But it wasn't land, and it wasn't big, but we did it anyway. So we didn't look left or right. So, fast forward, I would get a call from Rob and Trish. Oh, we don't know, we have another little girl. And someone told me, just let this go to the infinite intelligence. Don't worry. And I did. I just let it go to the infinite intelligence within me, saying that everything is going to be all right. That's the voice I kept hearing. Every time we walked this thing, we took a half a day one day. And my dad, who is now 81, he still works for us. We stopped on Rob's section of the property because this is surrounded by hundreds of acres of conserved wildlife. We stopped on Route 49, and it was a half a day before we reached where this land is. And my dad's 80 at that time, and somebody else was, he said, well, I'm older than this lady that was with us from Open Space Institute. She said, well, I'm older. And we went through, it was so beautiful. And we knew, my father and I, and our people that were with us during that time, knew that we felt the energy of the sun. And my dad was starting to tell stories. Well, yeah, that was my great grandpa's house, and this, where this was, and this was this and that and the other. He's like, oh man, look at the berries. I got in trouble for picking my grandmother's berries before she could make a pie. And he's telling the story, not even realizing that he was bringing back the memories of walking that land that I had only heard stories and read about it and talked about my grandmother. So I will tell you that this whole process went so quickly and without any hiccups, even though we thought there might be. And I'm awe-inspired. And it was even at the end, I brought picture files, but I'm not sure if anybody took them up there so that you guys can get a grasp of our community while I'm talking, because I'd rather do that. But if we can figure out how to do picture files so that you guys can see. But anyway, so it was 2 weeks prior to settlement. Green Acres says we have to clean up this land. So we go out and look at it. There's a container. There's piles of life everywhere. Piles of life everywhere. And they lived probably on 20 acres of it. As their church and whatever they did there, community. And we didn't hesitate. We called all troops. We have a staff of nearly 20. We have a miracle program. We have partners, and we called everybody. We said, you know what, we need this land cleared. We had the land cleared in 3 days. Called Green Acres back. Come on, look at it. Come on down and look at it. They came down, they looked at it. That was going to be a delay. But then all of a sudden something happened, and it was a miracle. It wasn't a delay. They were on schedule, even though they thought it was going to be a delay. So the process, and I tell you, working with Rob and Tricia, they were so powerful with this whole thing. They're like, we know how to do this. Let's do this. I've never purchased this kind of land, 2 Green Acres, or you have to get your approvals, and you have to get your site plans, and you have to get your inspections, your phase 1 or 2, whatever inspections they do to make sure there's no contaminations, appraisals. You have to pray that it appraises, because if it doesn't even appraise, and Green Acres doesn't focus on buildings, they only focus on land. So, it's not 1.2, it was 820,000 that the appraisal came in at. Presented the offer, seller said yes. That was a miracle. Not only that, The seller was willing to wait for the process. Fast tracking a little further is we were going to do the Green Acres grant now in Residence Club. We'll be the first Green Acres grant. But Rob's organization said that we have the Green Acres funds, let's do it through us first. And let's use TNT's money, and then we all combine the money together, open space to our money, and let's go through it because it'll be a much faster process. And they were right. They got it. The deed was transferred to us the same day, and we've already had our first welcoming celebration. Exactly 1 month away. The month past settlement was August 15th, and the activity was September 15th, and we worked hard, and it was on our new moon. So we do the new well, as maybe we celebrate the new moon. And the new moon in September is a very special moon for us. It's a part and it's new beginnings, and it's our new year. And this happened to fall on, and it was a beautiful thing. We had our spiritual leader. He blessed the grounds a couple of days before. We all felt the energy. We would go past this place where we have our new circle, and we felt the energy. We felt the energy. I would make people stop and just say, okay, what do you feel? And everybody's arms were moving. So we know that this was fast tracked and everything was done because of our ancestors and them welcoming us back to this land. And this land has the indigenous oak trees, and it has indigenous berries and indigenous wildlife where it's never been plowed or tilled. And it has species that, you know, we're actually taking Google and trying to find out what the species are because we've never seen them. You know, it has mushrooms that you can use for clothes dyes. So, you know, this land and this whole process was a spiritual process. And I can't take any credit for it at all because I just am hearing in my head that the infinite intelligence leads the process. So I'm going to open it to any questions. Because it's connected to Zoom. Okay, and so it won't share. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's enough.
How does your organization interface with the New Jersey Commission for?
Yes, my dad Chief Mark Whitehill, who was one of the initial persons on that committee. That was instrumental in getting that. We are one of the secret French tribes. And we still have 2 seats on that commission. Lou Bristol Ferris and our new chief, Yuri Ridgway, still sit on that commission. And I also attend those meetings too, as a part of that. Very important, and I'm really impressed with that. Yes.
Reservation.
Yeah.
In my chief grade.
Yes, I grew up in DC.
And not long after chief grade.
Yeah.
Is there any thought of petitioning the governor? Because it was there for years.
For years.
Twice a year.
We all went. We all grew up at that festival. It was you know that.
I'd be willing to help.
Yeah.
It was wrong.
Yeah. See, we're still faced with those injustices today. We are still faced with that, and it's going unnoticed. And yeah, I think that should be revisited. And too, there's a large community of our people. You know, I'm party from that community as well. So I felt the pain as well. You know, our communities went back and forth for hundreds of years for jobs. So I have family in Millsboro, Delaware, Dover, Delaware, and I have family in the Rococus area, and we all went back and forth because of, to find work and to find that hidden community. That's what it was. It was a hidden community. You knew where they were. We had codes. You go to the grocery store, one of the codes. I grew up with thousands of aunts and uncles. So that was your aunt, that was your aunt, that was your uncle, and your cousin. They weren't really, because there's so many of us, but that was the code. That was the code. That was the code of the secret community. There were a lot of codes. We never stopped celebrating a community as a community. Ever. Ever. And I remember right after the Freedom of Religion Act and we moving back here from Washington, D.C. My father was a carpenter, so I went down there, sort of, kind of. We were here every other weekend. And I remember having our first meetings in the early 70s, and some of the elder people were like, you can't tell anybody we're in. They're going to take our land. Some of the elder people. Now, my grandmother was born in 1908. Our people weren't citizens until 1924. 1924. My grandfather's war record card for World War II, he was born in 1919. His card now says American Indian citizen, because he was granted citizenship for signing up for World War II. And that's in our generation. Freedom of religion in 1978, and we're just now feeling the effects of that under the Freedom of Religion Act. We have rights to all our sacred sites. We have rights to every place where our bones are buried and where our encampments are. We have rights under the Freedom of Religion Act. It was almost like when the slaves were first freed, they didn't know until 50, 60 years later in some communities that they were no longer slaves. It's the same thing with this act of 1978. Fast forward, we're just now grasping what that means. So it's a good question. We can work on it. Anybody else have any questions? Robert, statements?
I'll just comment that when Ty first started speaking and I was sitting here, I happened to look out, there was a big red tail hawk right there.
So we knew the spirit was
Yes. That's really my dad. Had to behave myself. Are we out of time already?
No.
No. Yes.
So I'm curious, are there other important tribal lands that you'd
Yes.
like to see preserved?
Yes.
Returned?
There are other tribal lands. Our people lived along the whole Comanche River, and now there's really very limited access because it's been purchased by Fish and Wildlife and other state programs. And we are of the opinion that we must educate people as to why you can't access them. If you tell a child you can't do that, and you don't tell them why, what are they going to do? They're going to go because they need to discover why. You can't touch that fire. What are they going to do? They're going to touch the fire. But if you tell them, well, I touched that fire one day and I got burned, here's my scar, then they're going to listen. So what we're doing today with all these land purchases and rules and regulations is we are taking the access from the local communities that want to eat fish, that want to hunt deer, and that want to commune with the land because we want to preserve. We want to preserve wildlife species and we want to preserve local animal species. But who's going to be on the endangered list next? The people that live with those areas. Another issue with preserving large swaths of land in a community where you don't live is that you have no way to control what happens on that. So now you have a lot of hunting, illegal trapping, illegal tree cutting, because you cannot control it. So, this is how we see it. I live in Fairfield Township. I live surrounded by a lot of preserved land. But I hear ATVs behind my house. I hear illegal gun hunting. I can't do anything. No one's watching. This is not owned by me. It's owned by the state of New Jersey. So if you don't have stewards in your local community, this is land that our people used to take care of. This is traditionally our land in our backyard. And we never destroyed it. We never took the trees. We never dug holes. We never because we were educated. But if we don't educate the local population that, these tortoises are now on the endangered species list, let them have their egg space, and you're not teaching them, you're just putting a sign saying do not enter. What are we doing? You're making it so that they want to enter. Why is it there? Why do you have a sign there saying do not enter? I'm curious. I want to go see. I step on the eggs. And this is the mindset that a lot of organizations have. They have, we have the land now. We have to protect it and maintain it. Put signs and barriers up. But no one's watching. No one's educated. If we don't teach this new generation to take care of this earth, then we are going to lose the battle with Mother Nature. It's not Mother Nature that's going to lose the battle with us. We are going to be the pest that's going to feel the effects of the pesticides. We will be that pest. We're using pesticides, herbicides, and they're going into the catch base, they're going into the rivers, the streams. We're over tilling the land where the topsoil, the rich topsoil, is going into the waterways, and it's sitting at the bottom of the stream. Now the fish can't even swim upstream. We are going to suffer because of that. Not Mother Nature. Yes.
So, sorry, so it sounds like, you were talking about the education. And so it sounds kind of like one of these things, like with some of the land preservation organizations and other organizations, the effort seems to be there, right? And you're saying like, okay, there's this border, but there's a missing element.
Yes.
So then how do we, and what would you say would be like the first step? Because I do think education is a lot of things. So in this instance, what feels like the first step to, because I don't feel like the end result goals are different. I just feel like they're not making all the steps that are necessary maybe to get there. So then what are some things that you think beneficial or helpful to start on the path towards education and towards reaching the right goals?
Yes. So
preserving and educating about it.
When the preservation started, it was a dire need that we had to start preserving the land. They were going to exploit everything. So that was a dire need, and it was a necessity. So now we have to fast forward. You have to do your 5-year plan. So you went through your plan. We got a lot of land preserved, which is excellent, which is wonderful. So you have your land. You know how to do the process. What's the next plan? That's the stage we're in right now. And it's stewardship is the next plan. And we have to come up with ways, I'm by trade, I'm a farmer and a carpenter, and I know how to fish, and I don't like hunting, but, I have animals on my ranch, so I don't really have to go hunting and so forth. I do have some computer science, but I don't like to claim that, I just utilize it as a tool. But if we don't teach the children, the new generation, these skills, and how to identify plants and animals and trees and the disease of trees and the cause of the disease of trees and over-tilling and pesticides and herbicides and all of these things that we're doing, if we don't teach this new generation, we're not going to be here. We're not going to be here. And I'll tell you why. The trees consume what we produce. The trees exhale what we produce. When you realize that the trees exhale what they consume with their carbon dioxide, you have sea level rise. and you have forestry that's disintegrating. Well, guess what? That's disintegrating. They are releasing their carbon, and that carbon is poisonous gas to us. That carbon that they're releasing, every forest fire that those trees go through, they are releasing carbon dioxide that they. So if we don't wake up to our practices, farming is unchecked in our area in South Jersey. Farming is totally unchecked. Farming is unchecked, and you wouldn't even think about it in this day and age. That farming is unchecked. We hosted on our ranch. We do host people with we don't have to host them anymore, but now we have building. And it was one of the local groups that supports the farm workers. And to hear the stories about, they just sprayed the fields and you have to go out there an hour later in 2023, and why are they spraying the fields? And why? You tell me why we are supporting. I know it's good to plant trees, but why are we supporting species of trees that are not indigenous to this land? Because now you're introducing bugs that are not indigenous, and you're introducing more water use. But these are things that we need to teach as far as what we should do for the next generation. And then how we can do it, how we are going to do it is through the AmeriCorps program and through our other energy courses. And we are just going to have boots on the ground and train. Because there is a segment of the population that are not college bound, that would love to get their hands and learn hands-on experiences in the forest and in the earth. So that's how we're going to do it. And we're going to be setting up this model. This model is a new precedent. I know we have Bayshore. We don't have forest management yet. So this will be a new model where we're going to introduce our AmeriCorps Climate Corps population and our people into learning these things and how to do land storage.
Do you partner with other farms throughout New Jersey, or
Personally?
No,
my ranch is personal ranch. So
yes. So with the education of the AmeriCorps program, things like that.
I do virtual trainings, which we need to support on our ranch.
Okay.
But we're going to incorporate that into NAC.
Is there a map where we can see where this is?
It's because it's a newer Mac and it doesn't, so that's why we can't get pictures. So you probably have a map on.
I have Google. I only have Google. If anybody has, I can share the Google photo drive with somebody.
Yes, and we were just saying that maybe we can do it with Anjac with your permission, of course, because then it can be shared to everybody on the drive after.
Yes.
Can we get, all right, we'll
Yes.
get those.
Yes. There's I have all the historical maps. I even have one. I love them. So something about, the first maps were done, on the original cards, papers, and good hand, and really cool. I have those all in my reserve local maps. I have them on that drive too. So I have where we have the Cohantic Indian.
Is there a website that?
I do have a website. Yes. I will make sure that we have all of that.
So, in my position, I'm sure other people are probably in this place too, but I do large scale public programs in South Jersey. So I'm just wondering, how can I give Indigenous people a voice and connect to do that?
Well, we're going to be doing all that. I don't need to talk. So you guys take field trips?
I'm very excited
Okay, me
to
too.
do that. I also
host parties.
in my private life work with scouts, and I can't wait to bring them there.
Oh, okay.
But I would love to, have more people involved.
Yes.
And it's our own university, so
Okay. Yeah.
so I mean, I would love to have.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah. One of my partners is Stockton, and we have some things we're going to be doing. Indigenous plant dyes, and dyeing. It's just so exciting. I said after all these meetings and things, whatever, I'm really not kind of this won't make me.
Yeah.
And do presentations, that they're going to have to find me in the forest with Switzerland. because that's how far we get.
Does anybody have one last question and then we're gonna wrap up?
Look,
Yes.
Is there a reason why?
not really, because we're going to live with it. We don't want to live with it. I do have a flyer, like, and I will make sure that, they will get bids.